Hey guys, welcome to the second episode on the Daily Driven Classics channel. Today we'll be changing the Vanos seals and just doing an overhaul. I already started by unplugging the battery, and you have to do it, and next we're just going to take off all the beauty covers, and so then we have enough place to work on the Vanos. The last thing we now have to take out is the plastic fan and the belt drive, because when we take out the Vanos unit there will be a lot of oil flowing onto the belts and we want to not have that. On my car there's two different screws because one broke off. And out comes the electric fan. Now we take out the AC belt. Here it goes. Just push down on the spanners with your wrench. Take off the belt. There it goes. Belt is out too. Next, we're going to take out all 6 of the coil packs. Therefore you just have to take a screwdriver and just release this little lever, push it up, and then you can take out the connector. Easy as that. They are all held in by 10mm bolts, 2 of them per coil pack, and I suggest labeling them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 6, and then putting them down on some paper, just so that you know if you get a cylinder misfire you can check the coil packs first after reassembling everything. So we're going to take all of them out. So all the clips connectors are now off. Then we go to the screws. So, take them all out. Hula. Almost dropped it. So, this is what I meant by keeping them all nice and organized. And on my engine, I don't know if you can see it, but the inner valve cover guides, valve seals have failed, and there's oil leaking onto the spark plugs. That's something I discovered when I changed the spark plugs, and yeah, that was not a pleasant surprise. Next we're going to disconnect all of the sensors. There's one behind this little clip here. If you take it off, you have to make sure to not damage it, because it is prone to breaking. Old brittle plastic, that's not something you want. I usually do this like this, just to be sure. This is now loose without breaking it. That's the first connector. Then there is a clip right here behind this solenoid. There is a clip. You have to push it in from right here, from the fuel rail. Push it in, and then you can proceed to pull out the connector, or you push it out with a screwdriver using small amounts of leverage. Just don't apply any force. Then there's one right here. The second solenoid, this one's easier, just push in the clip and use leverage to loosen it. Then there's one more. Just a little recap, I just managed to get it off. There's this connector for the CCV, one Vanos solenoid connector right here, very brittle, pay attention. The second one, there's a camshaft position sensor, if I recall correctly, it's held in with plastic tabs. And then there's one more Vanos solenoid connector down here, and it's also kind of brittle, so pay attention. Vanos is held in with the metal clips, the camshaft with the plastic clip, and the CCV vent is also held in with plastic clips. Next, you disconnect the two connectors for the O2 sensors right here and right here on the side of your valve cover, and get out of the cable. Then you loosen the 11 bows on the outside, those are 10mm, and then there's 4 on the inside of the valve cover, those are 8mm. Eleven 10mm on the outside, 3 8mm here, here and here, and then there's one 10mm on the inside too, near cylinder number 4. Loosened them all, now I'm going to take them all out. Now we just have to unplug the coil pack and this little ground strip right here. To remove the coil pack harness, you just have to pull on it firmly and loosen it. So now it's out. I'm just gonna put it here so that I have more space. Now everything is off and we're ready to take off the valve cover and access the Vanos unit from the front. So, just as a little recap, this is how I organize the coil packs and their bolts. There are all the securing nuts with their O-rings, and I have put the O-rings into some high quality oil so that the rubber can absorb the special additives in the oil and then get more elastic again. And I have put the screws with their washers in vinegar so that any rust and oil residue will just get scrubbed off to keep them nice and clean. Now we will proceed with taking off the valve cover and taking out the Vanos unit. Now that we've loosened everything, we're going to take off the oil filler cap and then pry off the valve cover itself. There's one part right here where you can get under the cover and not with the plastic. That's fine. Just wiggle it off slowly. So as you can see, there's a lot of things caked on, and yeah, nice and disgusting. So, after inspecting everything, this engine seems to have gotten somewhat regular oil changes. There are no big clumps in there. The cam lobes seem to be in excellent condition, no wear, no scrapes, nothing unusual, everything is well maintained. The only thing that was not good was the valve cover was leaking around the spark plugs, so there was oil coming onto my spark plugs, which is not too good. At the front there's a lot of build-up, some sludge, which is not that good. I performed an oil flush by liquid moly and I think that helped kind of a little bit. But now we'll clean this unit and take off most of the sludge afterwards. So after closer inspection, I suspect these are the original seals because they are just like really hard and they're not flexible. They don't even keep their shape. So it's a good thing we're changing those because those were leaking. Now we're proceeding with taking out the Vanos unit itself. This is a size 8 imbus. Normal thread, you just put it in. and loosen it. Those are usually on really firm and there will be oil running out. Loosen both sides. And then you proceed with taking them out. This is just a normal thread. There's the oil running out. There's some more. Soak up the oil. That's just disgusting. Now there's two little caps that you have to pull out. First one. This O-ring is completely flat and shot. I just got the last cap out. If you have longitudes, as I do, it is very tricky to get it out because you can't get it in. It doesn't work. You have to push back the radiator, and even then it did not work. I had to loosen the two bolts holding in the radiator right here and the 4 bolts on both sides, the adjustment screws, to be able to move the whole front end. If you do that and you wiggle it around and you push it to the front, you can get your longitudes in there. The inside bolts are very easy to strip, so you really have to pay attention. And you have to use a T3 Torx bolt to get them in, and it is an inverted thread, so it is no longer lefty-loosey, but now you have to turn it to the right to loosen it. I am just going to give it a very slight tap with my hammer to loosen it. I'm going to do that on both sides, intake and exhaust. So, let's hope that the bolt does not snap. And then you turn it to the right. So, this is the bolt, got out all the way. Pay attention to not lose these. That's the first one. Now, you can proceed with taking off the whole Vanos unit. You have to take, the thermostat one is 13mm, the one on top for the motor hanger is 11mm, and all the ones around are 10mm. Now the motor hanger is loose, then you have to take off the Vanos connecting pipe. It is size 19, and just turn it the normal way. Again, I suggest putting in an old cloth because there's oil in there. So you loosen it, first turn is hard, the rest goes easy. So this is the board nut that goes in and connects everything. Then you take out the engine hanger, you turn it up and you pull it to the front. That goes there, and now you can loosen the rest of the nuts. There are 6 screws at the front, 6 nuts, 1 right here, 1 under the connector, 2 at the front, and then 2 near the thermostat housing. Once you get all of them out, everything should come out as planned. on there. Now you take off the connector, which is held in by a zip tie, and here we have our Vanos unit, just like this. So, once you've taken everything to your clean workplace, you can proceed by taking off the cover plates. There's 5 for the intake side and 4 for the exhaust side. There is a spring in the exhaust side, so pay attention. Those are all real tight. And make sure to not damage the seal underneath the covering plate. So, there's the cover plate with the seal underneath. Everything looks nice up until now. And now you can go underneath the Vanos unit. Oh, there's so much oil in there. Now I've taken all the oil out, I can push the Vanos cylinder up to the top and take it out. Now you have the actual Vanos thing. And as you can see, I'm just going to take some paper. As you can see, those are the rubber rings that are no longer sealing correctly. They are flat and pushed in because of the Teflon rings. Well, they're not Teflon rings, they're BUNA rings that are underneath and applying pressure. Those are completely flat and non-functional. We're just going to install the new rings. So, you cut it with a really sharp knife, I'm using a scalpel, and you cut it with an angle so that you can't damage the surface on which the cylinder goes through. As you can see, some very brittle material, and then there's a second ring underneath. I just took out all the rings, the sealing and the other rings, and for this supposed to be rubber and flexible and actually sealing something, those are very brittle. This one I can almost break it. See? It just breaks upon firmer contact. The inner ones are even worse, and this one just breaks apart. Like every turn I do, it just breaks. This shouldn't be like it. Those were completely out of function. Fortunately, everything on the inside is nice and smooth and the cylinder walls are not scorched. If you are installing the anti-rattle kit, a kit like this, you have to put it into your vice grip, use an electric impact, zip off this nut, and then you have to take out one piece after the other and replace this one and 2 bearings per cylinder. I am not doing the rattle kit install, so I am just going to put in new rings. A thing that many people do wrong is putting them in cold. You have to heat them up to 80 or 90 degrees so that they become flexible and you are not distorting them when installing. This is very important and might have an effect on how your Vanos is running later on. I'm gonna go and get some hot water, put them, leave them into this zip bag, and then just dunk them in so that they get the operating temperature and I can put them on nice and safe. Just warm the rings up in some hot water for them to get the flexibility. Then I'm going to put some oil on them, the same oil that's in the engine, so that they're nice, smooth and slippery, and then I push them over the thing. And then comes the second ring, which scrapes off the oil and keeps oil pressure. Be really careful. Now you have to resize the rings, so you put the cylinder into the bore at a slight angle and let it resize itself, pushing it all the way to the bottom for 1 minute. After letting it sit for 1 minute or a little bit more, you can take your cover, put it back on and let the top ring resize as well. If everything is going right, you can turn it around, push from this side, and let the Vanos cylinder slide through the walls, which works perfectly. So we've done everything right. Now we just have to put everything back together, clean up real nice on the inside, and then repeat it on the other side, which is exactly the same except for a spring that pressurizes the cylinder and makes it stay in one position. Now the exhaust side, cap the rings, resize them, and then back into the thingy. Unfortunately, this side is a lot harder because there is your spring. So I put this over there, completely compressed, in it goes, and then I push it in all the way, and then I hand tighten these bolts, the two bottom ones, so that I can keep the spring compressed with one hand and hold everything down, and then tighten the nuts with the other hand, which is kind of tricky. This is the new seal installed on the dual Vanos M52, M54, and for I believe N62 engines as well. This is all you have to do to revise your Vanos. If you're gonna have to do the anti-rattle kit, it is necessary to have an electric impact and some soft jaw vice grips.